Hi there folks. So what does a good cost plan actually look like? What do you get? Hugely important. It's very easy to measure up a building and put a rate on it and produce a cost plan. That's the bottom line. It's very difficult and it's a lot more intricate to actually do it line item by line item, to try to understand as much variance as possible and then submit that in an Excel sheet so you can see 2, 3, 4, 500 line items which cross-pollinate, cross-examine, cross-reference each other for more accuracy. It's even harder then to take that out to the big world and the real world and then put that into a macroeconomic system which are microeconomic cost plans and actual measurements and rates that you've already done. So for a complete world-class cost plan, those two need to be mirrored, but that in itself is not enough. You need to then take in the environmental factors and to examine them, and then you need to take the subjective nature and any red flags that are coming up in the project possibly seen at this stage, and you need to flag them. So it's a lot more detailed than square measurer multiplied by units, put into a template and spat out. It's way more than that, and that's why I put a lot of effort into them, because people are making life-changing decisions, and even if the variance between the cost plan and the tender, which there is, that needs to be examined too. So it's a safety package, it's a highlighting package, it's an informational package, it's an analytical package. It goes a lot more multi-layered than just an initial cost plan. And the reason I do this, guys, is, and I tell this story habitually, but it really hit home with me. Friends of mine lived a mile and a half away from each other, making life-changing decisions because of lack of information. Life-changing decisions. And I have had cost plans that drift from tenders, but there's explanations and traceability if you stick with the same quantities of air throughout the process. If you jump to another, then that quantities of air, QS, cost analysis, whatever language you want to use, is then looking at things at a different stage of progression. So you need to keep with apples for self-care and accountability and traceability. Okay. So the first thing is contractor's quotes, lump sum, no breakdown, no elements, no PCs, no contingency, usually very little program, VAT off and emitted. Some of them even put the grants in here and take them out. So you can look at something and you think that is €100, but actually it's already taken the grants out, so that's 150, 130 euros. Cost plan, section by section, and this is, I'm calling it a cost plan, but isn't it? It's a, what is it? It's a complete analysis. It's a complete early analysis package. So PC sums, contingencies, cash flow is also in there, VAT included. We talk about grants and point in the right direction, then sign off. So there is the RIBA plan. I've done a video on that, and you can see that that is different stages of the project, and this is where the cost plan comes in here. And you're best to start before tendering, but also a tendering stage in here as well, where technical design is locked in and you have a full bill of quantities. You want to come back and revisit here. So it's actually two. then you want to compare this with here, and then you want to compare it with the tenders you get before you go out. So you got a multi-varied analysis, initial cost plan with its limitations, and there is limitations to it. Limitations of knowledge, limitations of design, limitations of pricing. These will change, and then this should be more aligned, and then tenders come in, then you can look at this gap here. And it's not about criticizing the tender analysis or the individual tenders, it's about looking at why and what we need to do. We live in a very, very multi-layered, dynamic world that is full of unpredictability. The actual market type of, if we go back to economics, the market type of construction is the imperfect market. Low access, high number of differential players in the field. So we're going to get illogical equilibriums. That's the basis of it. So, what does my full package involve? Cost plan, PC sums, preliminaries, cash flow, cost plan versus tender later on, risk register, this is very important, grants information, and square meter rate. But as you can see, this is 1 of 8. For an awful lot of QSs, quantity surveyors, this is all you get. And this is not enough to be making life-changing decisions upon. Not enough. So you have the cost plan, you have all the different elements broken down. Then you have these PC sums, these are the client driven ones, and you can see here's a figure, but you can see total of the PC sums, and this is fully expanded upon. People don't know where they're starting with PC sums. I have a template that I use to start the dialogue with people, as I said. So you might find, and this, it doesn't really matter what it is because the homeowner's in charge and it's up to them to then drive these home, but you might find that usually about a quarter of the overall price of the whole project is the PC sum. So it's another way to cross-reference the project itself. Okay, preliminaries. Preliminaries are all items that are going to have a cost associated with them, but not directly related to an element of construction. Scaffolding, licenses, permits, planning permission costs, scaffolding, toilets, safety equipment, contract maintenance, and obviously insurance, and the whole big site supervision. So site setup as well. So these are all of the elements here, and then we get into these are preliminaries, and then basis of the contract is the actual contract itself, quantity, bill of quantities, site setup, insurance, the program, and then pricing obligations. This is of vital importance. Why does the cost plan differ from the tender? Often since January the 1st, installation has gone up by 30%, and we are now at the end of April. 30%. Most materials have gone up by 6-7%, some by 10%, and installation by 30%. So we're in hyper costs. It would not have been predictable that the war was going to happen. It would not have been predictable that there's going to be a split between the United States and Europe. The only thing that would have been predictable was the unpredictable. And we're a small little open economy. We're open to the fluctuations of global pressure, and that's a reality. So inflation, market timing, and this goes way beyond the analysis of a typical square meter cost plan. Then we also cash flow program as well. You can see the distribution of the money, plus we also need to know the payment over time, and you can see the weeks analysis as well. Really important to get cash flow right. That's the role of the client. Clients do not realize how vital this is. They do not realize it. Absolute vital for the secure and successfulness of a project is steady, regular cash flow and payments. Payments need to be linked to work, but they need to be as quickly as possible to onboard everybody for the betterment of the program. And then I do a risk register, steel, asbestos high, then M&E, glazing options, ground conditions. Well, ground conditions, apart from if you're the outcrop of the Wicklow Mountains, starts in Blackrock, the home of the Black Rocks, Blackrock, and the outcrop of the granite that was upfolded to form the Dublin Wicklow Mountains starts there and raises up. So at different stages, the debris that was left over from moving ice going north and retreating back up to the North Pole would have all folded debris in different stratas with different depths. That's where some areas like Fox Rock, you're going to hit granite. You're going to hit granite in the foundations, and as predictable as it can be, that's going to be an extra cost. Other areas you will not hit the granite. But Dublin, South Dublin is built on granite. So to know ground conditions, local ground conditions, if you're in Sandymount, I know a story of an engineer who did not go to the site, did not follow due diligence, was sending in recommendations, but never once visited the site. Gets down to Sandymount. Sandymount is built upon reclaimed soil. So reinforcement, larger structures, larger reinforcement in the ground instead of simple reinforcement, maybe even cage reinforcements to do the foundations. These things happen. Local knowledge is of vital importance. Unfortunately, asbestos needs to be taken care of, and this is on the onus of the homeowner to get an asbestos report done. And it's not good enough to get a house report saying you need an asbestos report. You need to get the asbestos report. So air to heat pump is now up to 12. I'm going to do a video on this because this is new. Now up to 12.5 grand. External insulation, windows, mechanical, solar panels. But the one thing that you got to realize, this is only for the proportion of the house that is actually pre-existing. This is not for new builds. Okay, so then before you sign the contract, and this is why this goes beyond a cost plan. This is a preparation package. You need structural engineer, you need your asbestos report, you need your grants applied for, you need PC sums to be aligned, and you need the right contract signed by everybody before starting works. Please do these 5 things. Whether we need each other or we don't in this environment is utterly irrelevant, and whether you're in the UK or the US, there's the equivalent in all of these. The equivalent, and we'll be doing UK videos at some stage. Starting to do a little bit of consultancy work there, but here this is what is needed. Okay, so square meter existing, these are current rates around April 2026, and then we're going up here. So square meter is a good counterbalance to examine the particulars and subjectiveness of the individual cost plan that has been done earlier. And so then I address specific designs for the projects in themselves individually, and that's what a holistic cost plan actually looks like with me. It's a care package to actually, and it's an action package as well. So if I can help you in any way, please let me know. Best regards, Rory. Thanks very much for sharing. Really appreciate your time. Thanks, guys.